Welcome back, everybody, for the First in Line podcast. Hope you guys are having a good time. Hope you guys are enjoying the holidays. I'm here with Nelson.
Hi, guys.
And Jasmine.
Hello.
We're excited to kick off this episode. So, let's go ahead and kick it off.
Yeah, so today's guest, like we were just introduced, is Jasmine Zane now. And how long have you been married?
Oh man, we're going to be married 4 years on Thanksgiving Day. So.
Wow, it's really exciting. And I believe you guys went to like a trip recently for your birthday, or was it?
It was more just a casual trip, kind of like a dream of mine, as cheesy as that sounds. But we had the opportunity to go to Paris, France. So.
Oh yeah. How was that?
It was good. I tried not to go with expectations. I was able to practice my high school French, and yeah, it was good. Definitely a new experience for me. I've never really been to Europe. That was the first time as well. So it was a culture shock in good ways, and of course a few bad ways. But I took all of the experiences, one great learning opportunity.
Nice. And who is this we that we're talking about?
Oh, we, of course. So my husband Will and I, it was just the two of us, and he relied on my French, and again, it was like a lot of pressure because I was like, okay, here we go, let's do this. And I would start really well, and then they would ask me a question in French, and then I was like, I did not catch any of that, but they were so nice. They then would ask in English, so.
Nice. Yeah, so Will is also part of the podcast. In case you haven't, if this is the first episode that you hear, welcome. Otherwise, you can go ahead, click our link, and you can check any other episode that he's hosted. So he's a great guy, and he's behind the scenes right now. So just wanted to make sure we got that proper shout out there.
Yeah. So French in high school. What made you want to do French?
We had German, French, Spanish. I think they had American Sign Language as well. But I just thought, how cool would it be to be trilingual? So that was honestly the only reason that I went for French. But learning it's very similar to Spanish. So I feel like that's why I did so well in that class.
Are you able to say a sentence right now? Like, could you say like, how's everyone? Or like,
Again, it's really bad, but I can say like,
or say something, and then whoever speaks French, they can, translate for us in the comments or something like that. Yeah.
Sure. Bonjour, je m'appelle Jasmine.
Oh, that doesn't sound bad.
Yeah.
It's all about how you purse your lips is what I learned, and that my French teacher made sure to really
get that.
Yeah.
And how long did you take that? Was it like all 4 years or?
No, I actually started, I think my sophomore year of high school. So sophomore, junior, and senior year. So yeah, just 3 years.
Wow, yeah. It's pretty impressive that you still remember it. Because I have some friends that take Spanish, They're like, oh, I took Spanish in high school. And then they're like, but I forgot everything. And it was just like something they had to do. Whereas you right now, it's something you actually wanted to do. So that's really cool. I think that you still have it with you. So you're trilingual now. So
yeah, well, it's sort of. It's not perfect, but
yeah.
no.
Well, at least you know the basics. So I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, enough to help me navigate through a French-speaking country. So yeah.
So where did you go to high school?
Yeah, I went to Park High School in Cottage Grove. I went there all 4 years, and it's a public high school. So it was, I really enjoyed almost all of my teachers. I wouldn't say I was like, a nerd for lack of a better term.
Yeah.
But I really did enjoy a lot of my classes, and that's where, of course, I met a lot of my good friends. Even if we don't really talk very much to this day, I know that I can always reach out to them. They can always reach out to me, and it's as if, we just saw each other like the other day type of deal. So, yeah.
Cool. And so what would you say, take us through, a profile of high school Jasmine? What were you known for? What, friends you hang out with? What did you do after school? What were your favorite classes?
Oh, man. Yeah. So I would say I was an overachiever where I knew I can overachieve at, meaning classes like French. I knew English just was not my strength, but I did take, we didn't have AP courses, or we did, but they transitioned to IB courses. So I did take IB English, IB Math. And I really enjoyed my physics class that I took as a senior. And it really just came back to the teachers that I had there. Really just how excited they were about teaching the subject. I was excited to learn about it.
Yeah.
But I was not athletic in high school, but I did do track and field, and I did play tennis. Again, I wasn't the best at it, but I really did it. One, because I wanted to. Sorry, that's my dog. But one, I wanted to, make my college applications look really nice. And then the second piece was I just wanted to hang out after school with friends. I didn't really want to go home immediately. Maybe all of my Mexican immigrant children will know this, but my parents were really strict. So any excuse I could to get out of the house.
Yeah.
And that was an excuse. So yeah.
Wow. So, but have you been in Minnesota your entire lifetime?
I haven't. So I was born and raised in Greeley, Colorado. It's about an hour away from Denver. And most of my childhood was spent there. I moved here to Minnesota, I think when I was around, when I just started fourth grade. So in Colorado, schools start in August, like elementary schools. So I was already starting to fourth grade over there, moved here. Really the big reason for our move was my dad works at a body shop. He had just lost his job. And my mom's side of the family, they all lived here, most of them, if not all. So there was like the piece of family, but there was also the job opportunities out here. My family or uncles, they work in roofing and siding. So they kind of extended that offer, and my dad just wanted to try it out. I mean, why not? Currently he's working at a body shop, but that was really the reason for moving here to Minnesota. And it was a lot for fourth grade to me when I moved here.
Would you consider Minnesota like your home state, or if you had the chance, would you go back to Colorado?
Oh man, whenever people ask me what's your home state, I always say Colorado, and I would go back if it weren't for my family. Yeah. But then again, if you're not familiar, the housing crises and cost of living over there is kind of crazy at the moment. So there's a little part of me where I'm like, well, maybe I'll stay here in Minnesota. So yeah.
So walk us through the move, like from what you remember, because if I try to think about fourth grade, like I don't really remember too much, but maybe that's because there was no like big thing that was happening in my life in fourth grade. So like, what do you remember about like saying bye to your friends? Did you guys fly here, drive here together, packing everything up? Where did you end up going when you were here?
Oh, for sure. I mean, I think because it was such a big move, I still have like very clear images in my head. I do remember saying bye to my childhood friend, Jessica, who, again, I don't talk to on a daily basis, but like I know each time I connect with her, it's, as if we've been talking constantly. But I do remember her saying goodbye, and like the car kind of in a movie scene where like the car is driving away and you see your friend and you're waving bye. So I did have that. We drove here to Minnesota, and it was a shock because also I forgot to mention the elementary school that I was going to, I would say it was pretty diverse. And moving here to Minnesota, where the school that I went to, I was really only like one of like 4 or 5 Latinos, and maybe like one Asian, one Black student. It was a culture shock. But we stayed at my uncle's house. We didn't have a home right away. And that was difficult for not only us, because we were a family of 7, but even my uncle, like sharing his house with his wife and his small children. It was just a lot to adjust to. And also, I remember, I was going to elementary school all alone. My two older sisters were going to, I think, the middle school at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And we were just trying to find, what was working. Yeah. And I guess not to get sad, but shortly after, my older sister, one of them, she fell ill. And unfortunately, she passed away. So, with the move, with her passing away, for reasons that to this day we don't really know why. Mm-hmm. It was a lot to take in. I think I remember there was like stages to the grieving process, and I think I was really in the denial stage for the longest. Mm-hmm. Like I even remember during that whole time, I don't really recall crying very much. Mm-hmm. But I kind of forced myself to cry because I saw everyone around me crying. Yeah. And this was a sister who I just grew up, like, her name was Vanessa. Mm-hmm. And I really looked up to her and admired her. Her artistic abilities really inspired a lot of mine, mm-hmm. where as a child, and even in high school, like, I really enjoyed the arts, such as, like, drawing, painting, choir. That was just something where I feel after her passing, I felt more connected to that and to her through that. So, yeah, it was a lot.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Now that you're older and you've graduated, you have your job, and you're like mm-hmm. settled here in Minnesota, do you think you're gonna spend the rest of your times here?
Yeah, I mean, there's a part of me where, and I think every Minnesotan can say this, mm-hmm. where the winter, it's like unbearable. Yeah. And then there's like, I'm out of here. But with my family being here and they're kind of settled, mm-hmm. Such as my older sister, her name is Fatima. Yeah. She just had her first child who just turned 1. Mm. So I don't really, I would love to be around seeing her grow up. Same with my husband's side of the family, who most of them, if not all, are here.
Oh, yeah.
Nelson included. Yeah. So, I'm really connected to family. Like, that's something that I value. Yeah. I hold dearly. So as much as I complain in the winter of like, yeah, my boy, it's, I can't see being far away from my family. So yeah. But if I ever get, I work at Xcel Energy, and we do operate in Colorado. Mm-hmm. So whenever like work trips pop up, the opportunity to go over there, which I did not too long ago, I'll jump on that opportunity just to kind of get a little taste.
Yeah. Also, mm-hmm. I believe you have a position in human resources in Xcel, right?
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I'm a senior HR generalist. Mm-hmm. I actually started in that role about a year ago, actually. I started December 1st of 2021. Mm-hmm. And so far it's been good. It's definitely a challenge. I feel like I don't have it nailed down, mm-hmm. which I'm a perfectionist, a mm-hmm. bad one, but a perfectionist. Yeah. It's something that frustrates me, where I just want to kind of know it all. Yeah. But I, of course, have to step back. And I've been reminded of this by great leaders at the company, where they're like, well, if you happen to know it all, or you happen to be the smartest person in the room, shouldn't that be a sign that you need to move on to a new opportunity? Like, yeah. So I really have tried to take that in, because in my role, we're working in a lot of gray. It's not black and white. And of course, we're dealing with humans, people who are spending a third of their life at work. Mm-hmm. So let's try to make it meaningful. And my role really surrounds supporting leaders at the company. So, and I support leaders across all of our 8 operating states. So, yeah.
So right now, I think you're doing working from home, right?
Yes.
And that's because of COVID.
Yes.
And before then, it was all in person. How was that different for you with your role? How did that impact you? Or did it make things more complicated since you're just behind a computer? It's not the same thing talking to a person, face to face, versus like talking to them through video cam or...
Yeah. Well, something that I've been encouraged to do whenever we do have meetings on by video is to, show up. don't have it on, you know, the, I guess, black screen or whatever. But I have found that it's a little more difficult to build trust, in the sense of I know I have to work a little bit harder now. And one way that I do that is if I say that I'm going to do something for them, or for their team, it's following up on that promise. And yeah, and again, I work with a lot of leaders who, if they give me the time, I have to make sure that I show up and really make it worth their time. Because as you may know, HR has really kind of, before, just been one of those like, all we do is give people their paychecks and kind of set like the holiday parties. It's really become a lot more strategic. So when I'm given a seat at the table, I want to make sure that I'm prepared, that I'm present, like tentatively listening, especially when I'm working from home where there's maybe distractions. So that's, in a way, I guess, to sum up everything that I said, it's really learning how to continue building those relationships with leaders and employees.
So can you explain to us like the career path of what got you to senior HR generalist?
Yeah. So I studied human resource management at the University of St. Thomas.
Was that your first choice, or?
It wasn't actually. I went for business administration, and really that's because I honestly didn't know what to go for. But one of the career counselors there told me you probably should narrow it down. So I just saw human resources, because I was taking an accounting course at the time, and that was kind of in my mind, but I was like, no, I clearly is not meant for accounting. But narrowed it down to human resources, kind of did the highly suggested route of getting an internship. My first internship was with the City of St. Paul and their Human Resources Department, and that's where I was able to kind of get a taste of everything within HR. So like your payroll, your diversity, inclusion, engagement, and other aspects, workforce relations. And then from there, I went to a nonprofit organization, and I am blanking out on the name, but I was there really only for a few months. And I was a senior at this point in time at the University of St. Thomas, and there was a scholarship that had been announced on Radio Rey that my mom told me about, and it was through like the I think like Minnesota private organization or fund, something like that, through Xcel Energy. So I told my mom I actually had applied to this while I was a junior, and I didn't get it. So I was like, well, why would I apply to it again only to get rejected by it again? But no, this time, thankfully, I was awarded the scholarship.
Nice.
However, a little kind of like caveat was with the scholarship, they really encourage you to find opportunities within Xcel Energy. And that's where a internship within their diversity and inclusion team had popped up. And I would not recommend anyone doing this, but I was still an intern at this nonprofit. I told them, hey, I need to leave early to catch a class, because I couldn't tell them the truth that I was going for another job interview. I catch the green light to get there. However, it was pouring that day, and all I had was like my little umbrella, and I was like in my interview clothes. I get to downtown Minneapolis, where I get to their office, and I'm like, I'm here for my interview at the front desk. And they're like, oh, yeah, sure. And then I'm like, I'm soaking wet. And so I ask, is there a bathroom that I can use? And they're like, oh, yeah, of course. Show me the way. I'm trying to dry off to give me time to really focus on this interview. I go in, I do it. I honestly can't recall how it went, but I did it, and I got the job. So yeah, so from there,
it was worth it.
It was worth it. It was worth the rain, the lying, I guess. But I was, since then, thankfully, after graduating college, I was able to start full time but this time within their total rewards department within their disability solutions team. So really, I just worked on kind of like the managing their leave in absence programs, such as like short-term disability, long-term disability, FMLA. Kind of worked my way up in that department to be what's called a disability solution specialist. So now bringing in laws such as like the American with Disability Act, making sure if an employee is in need of an accommodation, really helping the manager and the employee through that, making sure that I'm bringing in the right resources, right partners in case it, requires a little bit more knowledge or just needs to be escalated. And then from there, during the pandemic, and I feel like a lot of people felt this, but I was burnt out because my team, we were in the middle of COVID-19 response because of our experience and background. And I did feel the burnout, and I just wanted to try something new. And this opportunity of HR generalist kind of popped up. I was like, let's just see, give it a try. Went for it, got the interview, did the interview, and I've been with the team ever since. And yeah, it's definitely the change that I needed to, spark my interest again in human resources and really just coming back to why it is that I'm doing what I'm doing.
And HR generalist, is that, so when I think about this, I think about like there's like a team of HR generalists. Is that kind of a thing? And then it's just like you guys, is it, because there's a lot of different like job layouts, and like sometimes you guys share like an email and like you guys kind of like, I don't know if that's how you guys do it, right? But there's like one email for HR or like for IT or for whatever team, and then you guys just tackle different cases, or is it like specifically someone wants to work with you? Is it specifically someone wants to work with another HR generalist? Like, well, I guess like talk us through your day of like from the beginning to the end of a day, like what gets accomplished? What is it? Kind of just like putting out fires? Is it stuff like that?
It's all of the above. No, nothing else. It's the way that Excel Energy, our support team is that we are split up by business units. So I support one business unit. However, I do have, a colleague who is a level above me, which is the HR business consultant. But in my role, really, it's consulting leaders on any and all HR related questions. Now, if it starts to become, and I'm taking the words from my previous manager into this because it's true, if it starts to kind of become a research project where I'm just not finding the answers to this one question the leader may have, it's okay, I'm not necessarily the subject matter expert. Let's transfer you to who is, or let's bring them into the conversation. Really, I'm there to help consult, help use data to make informed decisions, whether it's around recruiting, retention skills, keeping employees engaged. I know, especially during this time as we're kind of coming up to it, how do we reward employees appropriately to keep them engaged and focused on the work that they should be doing so that we meet, our objectives. So that's kind of like my day-to-day, but sometimes it's little tasks here and there, and of course there's fires that need to be taken care of, especially because of the line of work that we're in.
So all like the retention data and like reward data and stuff, is that like a different position than you just like you get the data and you get like the nice, and then you kind of use that to make your decisions and like your consultations, or is it, like I said, or are you actually collecting the data and analyzing the data and like formatting the data?
Yeah. So, and let me know if this doesn't answer your question, but like we rely a lot on our like HR information system, which is where when an employee joins and as they go through their career life at Excel Energy, at least, that's where we collect a lot of data. And from that, I have access to pull a lot of it. However, if I do need a little bit more help, or I'm not finding what I need to really help get the leader the story that I want to tell them, or the story that they're kind of looking for, that's where then there's another department within HR that they're like the data analytics team, and they can help me with that. So it's leveraging a lot of my partners. I feel like in my previous role, it was kind of just me and a few other partners, but in this new role, it's really reaching out to like even beyond HR. Sometimes it's working with finance. Other times it's working with, accountants and I support engineers as well. So sometimes I have to even bring in their expertise so that I can understand how to meet their need. Because of course, engineers have a much more technical background compared to what I do. So it's like, how do we meet in the middle to, because ultimately my role is I'm supporting the business. Of course, sometimes there's agendas that I want to push, but it's like, okay, what is it that they, as my customer, are requesting?
So, what out of for your whole HR experience, how many colleagues and stuff would you say went to school for HR, and then is there any that didn't transferred in from a different education background, and then with that, what are some skills that you think are really necessary to succeed in HR and to be help towards your clients?
Yeah. So I would say I don't have an exact number, but I would say half of the people that I've met within HR, they went to school for HR. The other half, they went to school for something totally different, whether it was I've noticed a lot of psychology majors in HR. I recently had a friend, actually Karina, who was a previous guest on the show. She's now working in what falls under HR, but she went to school for accounting. And our diversity and inclusion director, he went to school for engineering. So yeah, I would say, to answer your second question, some of the skills that are required is really just being open to feedback. Because as HR, you're really listening to what the customer is, and our customer are our employees. So sure, we can provide them with the answers, but if that's not really answering their question or their concerns, then as an organization, the people are going to start leaving. I mean, we've seen that during the pandemic and still seeing that now, where it's the silent quitting, the, great resignation, great reshuffling, whatever you want to call it. It really comes back to listening to what employees want and need to be successful, and giving leaders and employees the resources to do that. And really bringing it back to, the values of what do people enjoy. I kind of threw this out earlier, but I attended a webinar where I can't remember the subject, but they threw out a data point that kind of, took me aback. And it was that we will spend a third of our life at work. So why not make it valuable? Why not extend gratitude? That's what it was about. It was about gratitude and how to go about acknowledging employees and their efforts. Not only their efforts, but their results as well. Some employees, all they really need is a thank you. Other employees might require more than that, which is, the development opportunities, a mentor or coaching opportunities, whatever it may be. So I would just say just being open to listening to feedback and really extending empathy, which is really needed during today's time for sure.
So obviously, how you mentioned, right, what are, in your now expertise, what are some things that if somebody was starting a business or starting an organization, what are some things that you would start right away with, to make sure that the employees are happy, and I guess obviously every employee is different, every employee needs something different, but kind of a good start, kind of every organization should be practicing this, in your opinion.
Yeah, well, I would for sure first say consult an attorney or some law firm on there's basic employment laws that can get employers in really, big trouble, such as, are you paying appropriately for overtime? Are you making sure that if an employee is eligible for such benefit, that they're aware of it, that they sign the consent, and that they know it's going to be taken out of their paycheck, whatever it may be. So there's kind of like the basic of just employment law. So I would say that's the first step. But now that you've gotten that basic out of the way, I would say the next thing is really helping the employees as like the business owner understand the vision. Because if they don't know what they're trying to achieve, if they don't really know what you as a leader are trying to achieve, then they're just going to show up for a paycheck. Yeah. And that's not going to get you the best results. I mean, and that's kind of the big question in HR is, obviously we're not going to pretend that we don't know that, there's some employees that show up for a paycheck. But again, it's how do you bring value when they do show up at work? How do we help us meet the goal? And I say us because as HR, we're pretty much, corporate or representing the company as well. But for me, I really try to connect the two because I'm also an employee, and it's like, well, how would I feel? And I want to make sure that if I am feeling valued, I want to extend that to other employees and their leaders to help extend that as well.
Nice. So this is me like asking just like a personal question because if anybody's watched this podcast, I work at a high school, so I don't work in corporate America. But like, talk me through like the experience of a promotion. Like, what does that feel like? What does it entail? Like, I mean, is it just an email and you're just like, okay, like, I have no idea. So like, talk me through that. I'm very curious.
Yeah. Well, I can share. There's, I guess, several ways to get promoted. One is like the typical, moving to a new position. That's actually the most common one, actually. But I can speak on it at least from where I've supported promotions, and that something that we in my team try to let the managers know is help the employee understand why they're getting this and why now. It's kind of that piece of like timeliness, as well as, let them know what they should continue doing, but also maybe helping them understand that the finish line has maybe moved. So how do we get to that new finish line? When I've been promoted, it's been a joy where I'm like, what, me? And I think that's just a confidence thing in myself that I'm still working on, just building confidence. But I think with that, it's also recognizing that there's going to be new eyes and responsibilities kind of set on you to meet those expectations. And that's where I am at times kind of struggling to meet sometimes, but I have to, again, step back and I'm like, no, I got this. If I got into this role, it was because they saw something in me. I need to be able to see that as well and really, blow them out of the water and kind of show up. Sometimes put in, again, whether that's like preparing for meetings, even if I know I'm not going to be the expert, at least having questions prepared. It's really just knowing your stuff and just being confident at delivering it for sure.
So is it like an email that randomly shows up in your inbox? Is it like your manager that comes in, or is it like a big meeting, or is it like a surprise party? There are probably different ways, but like, how have you experienced? How have you done some?
Generally, or I guess the one where you're moving to a new position, it's generally through the recruiter who delivers the news and asks you, do you want to accept the role? If yes, then they'll kind of give you like their spiel there. If it's like a different kind of promotion where maybe it's like and I'm thinking more of like the for engineers, there's like a hierarchy within Xcel Energy. I believe this is actually true industry-wide, but there's a certain point where we will promote certain engineers to the next level. And it's the manager having the conversation with their employee, letting them know, hey, we've seen what you've done. We want to keep you around. We're really excited to see what you have to offer. And that's where we'll encourage them to extend the offer.
Okay. So it's not like, because I might be envisioning it wrong, but so it's like you apply for the like
The role
the
or
role,
position,
and you
yeah.
just know that that's like a higher like role or something. So it's not like someone comes in and like, hey, you've done a really good job, like we want to promote you to like managing, blah blah blah, or like anything like that. Like so it's just like you're constantly looking at like the openings and then kind of being like, oh, that's the next step for me, and like that's what I want to apply to.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, and I would say we're pretty transparent in that, and I'm not saying that just because I'm in HR and I have access to it, but employees have the same access, or about, I should actually step back. They have access to what they need to know to be informed about any position that they want to take on, which includes, our salary grades, who the hiring leader is, who the recruiter is, what exactly the minimum qualifications are. So and of course we really encourage, and this is something that whenever I do have an intern that's kind of sent my way for like an informal interview, or a kind of like one-on-one, I really encourage them to do like the job shadowing, or like the just meeting with leaders and asking about jobs that they're interested in or just want to know more about, even if they like have no interest whatsoever. It's like, now's the time to do it. So yeah, I feel like we're pretty transparent in that sense.
Because I think that's what that kind of response that really be valuable.
Yeah. Well, the question that was just asked behind the scenes is with regards to high performing employees and how do we keep them engaged and that incentive that they need to give it their 100%. So I think it starts with, and hopefully I'm not oversharing, but I'll share what I think I can share.
Yeah.
It really starts with like one-on-one conversations with their leaders, really helping the leader understand what are your career aspirations, and what is it that we can do for you now, or is it something that you're looking for, within the next year, next few years. So it certainly starts there. When it comes to our total rewards package, that is something that is evaluated. And I think every company is now kind of picking up where it's, before the pandemic, again, maybe it was just the paycheck that was satisfactory. Now it's, there's a lot of competition. There's a lot of new opportunities. So looking at the total rewards package of like benefits, what we offer, but it's also bringing it back to what the employee's well-being. But for those high-performing employees, when it comes to the bonus conversation, like the yearly bonus, there is definitely some behind-the-scenes conversations that are had with leaders. And during those conversations, we really challenge those leaders to kind of think about a couple of questions, and really bring it back to what was it that the employee's performance looked like. And did they meet results? If so, we should be rewarding them the highest rewards, because that's, it comes back to our pay philosophy of our, strongest performers should get the highest rewards. And it might be some give and take there. And it comes back to opportunities that we can extend to them, whether it's, the formal through promotions, or maybe the informal, which is, let's give them a coach, let's give them a mentor, let's maybe, if they need to build leadership skills because they're not quite there yet, maybe let's have an intern report to them, or maybe they can be like an informal coach or mentor to someone, and then kind of, have some like 360 kind of reviews of, how would you review this leader, and then the leader, how would you review this employee, so on and so forth. So there's also, other learning opportunities, which is like the formal going to school, if that's something that the employee really needs or wants to do, to kind of move to the next step. It's supporting that. But I always tell my leaders, and sometimes I feel like it's easier said than done. I totally understand that, but it comes back to making sure that we're making the time for these development engagement opportunities, because if we're not making the time for it, it's never going to get done. It's just going to be like, oh yeah, we'll work on it, but it's going to get pushed back if we're not actually scheduling time on this employee's calendar to really help develop them. So Yeah, it's definitely something that we do like 365 days a year.
Yeah, well, I just want to say congrats on your new position. I'm glad that you got it, and kind of want to take a step back away from your work life now. Now I want to see if you can share with us a little bit of your hobbies and some things you like to do on your free time. So I think you did choir in back at the University of St. Thomas. Do you still do that now?
I don't, but I really do miss it. I actually started choir when I was in elementary school. I didn't do it in high school. Again, it was mostly just I thought I was gonna be busy with schoolwork and I wanted to try athletics and other clubs. But I did it again in college, and that I like. I don't know. It was just something about.
Do you ever like volunteer when you're out like at some like I don't know music and you kind of or some restaurant and they ask for like or they're doing like karaoke? Do you ever volunteer to go sing out there or?
I don't, and that is the introvert in me. I don't know what it is to be. Again, maybe it's just coming back to like a confidence thing that I'm still working on. But I'm okay not being in the spotlight. And I joke, but it's true. Like I have my pets here, like my cat and my dog, and I'll sing to them, and I'm like, they can't run away from my singing. But there was just something powerful about being in a choir, like especially hearing ourselves, where I was like, wow, we just did that. And I was a soprano one, in an all-female like choir, so that's pretty much the highest. I guess I don't know if octave is the right word, but the highest like singers in the group. So just being able to kind of hear how all of us were able to kind of come up with this one sound that was like, it just brings me back sometimes to like, great films when they have the choir singing. Like I think of Harry Potter. I don't remember what movie it is, but there's this scene where, it's pretty dark and there's this choir singing, and I'm like, wow, like you could just feel chills going down my body type of situation. I really enjoyed that. So that's why, choir, I miss it. I'm okay just singing to my pets for now. But I guess activities outside of that, I'm not athletic, but I really do enjoy to like go on hikes or run. It's more a question of I have to make time for it, being disciplined about running.
Yeah.
But when I do it, it really helps me kind of reconnect and get grounded again. It's kind of a sense of humility, but also regaining power, as cheesy as that sounds, where I'm like, wow, I'm able to do that. What else am I capable of? And just a sense of being proud after accomplishing, whether it's like a 6-mile hike somewhere in like the North Shore, or just running a mile on a treadmill. I'm like, I did that. So I really enjoy just kind of being out and active. I don't enjoy the mosquitoes so much. I like being outdoors.
I want to do something kind of fun that we've never done before. But we have William in the back. Jasmine and William been married for a year now, right? About to be a year. I'd love to do like, what do you think your top 3 strengths are? And I want both y'all to write them down for Jasmine, and then kind of see like what we compare to, and then kind of like talk a little bit about that.
Okay.
I think that'd be kind of fun. Will, you have paper and pen you can kind of grab?
So I have to think of 3 strengths.
Your top 3 strengths.
Oh, my top 3.
Your top 3.
Okay.
What you think your top 3 strengths are, and then Will think what your top 3 strengths are. You guys both write them down, and they'll kind of see like.
Okay.
I think it's a cool way to also like see what other people are seeing, especially someone who spends a lot of time with you. Like maybe there's something that you do that you don't like put a lot of focus on, and it's something that Will also shows like what Will appreciates of you too. So it's kind of like a fun little thing. So let's I'm excited.
Yeah, sounds fun.
Yeah, cool.
I'm scared. There might be one that I think he may not have on his list, and maybe this just is me like creyéndome.
Okay, now do you want to read what row do you want? We'll kind of read it out.
One of y'all can read it out.
Ready?
No.
All right, so first one, Will put was strong or strength.
Oh.
Okay, so that's the first one. Second one was musical. Okay, and then number 3 was clean.
Clean.
Okay.
Those are top 3 strengths according to Jasmine's husband Will.
Well, I think I
Yeah.
got one. I'll just read my list. I put optimist,
Mm.
faith, and organized. So I guess the
Organized,
organized and
yeah.
clean.
Organization. Okay. Cool. So what are your reactions from Will's list?
Yeah, strong. I mean, that one really takes me back, and I kind of think about like little me, where, you know, when you think of strong, it's the first thing is like, are you athletic? Are you fast? Are you capable of kind of lifting certain weights? And I was not. I was pretty thin in like my whole life. So on that physical piece, didn't really feel that. But I think there was a lot of times where life really, God put a lot of tests my way.
Mm-hmm.
And I jokingly say it now, but you know, sometimes you just gotta laugh at your pain, which is like, God, like, can you not? I'm having a moment right now. So to hear that, I guess I would be interested in hearing more, but at the same time, I think it's, you know, acknowledging what you've been through, that it's life is a journey. And as long as you learn from those experiences and you're alive and well, then that's, you know, you're doing what, you know, God set out for you to do. Yeah, but I guess musicals, I can see that again. I mostly sing to my pets, but sometimes he may catch it.
Yeah.
And then yeah.
I think what's really I like how Will put strong and like the strength thing and how you kind of described it, and I think for a lot of people, one of my really close friends once talked about like our own struggles, and he mentioned that like if everybody were to like write down their struggles and like what they struggle with every day and like their biggest struggles, and kind of like put it in a big pile in the middle in the room, like, and then you will be like, okay, now pick which one you want to deal with. Like a lot of people would deal with their own stuff, and so it's kind of like not till you realize what other people are dealing with that you're just like, wow, like that person is really strong because they're dealing with that every day. Because it's like, right, God made you for your battles, and like, so you're like, I might be incapable of something that Nelson can easily deal with, but that's just like, we look at that as strength because it's like that's a strength of his, and that's to him, it's just like that's who I am. So it's like, I really like that because it shows that like you are a strong person, because we all are here today, which means that we've been able to survive things that God has put to test us. So.
I haven't heard. That's amazing. Like an amazing way to think of it. I haven't heard that, but if I may, because I see strong and musical, I think one of my weakest points happened when I was in college. To be honest, I think I've only shared this with Will and maybe my siblings, but this was my first semester, first year at St. Thomas. I again joined the all women's choir there. And there was this great opportunity that the St. Thomas Choir has, which is, if they still have it, every other year they sing at Orchestra Hall in downtown Minneapolis, and sometimes it's recorded, sometimes it's not. That year it happened to be recorded. And we were rehearsing at the chapel. And it was mostly all Christmas songs, and the, like, you know, the mena, like the head of the music department came in to check on us and just kind of make sure that we're all doing well. And she was hard on all of us. And there was an instance when we were singing a song, she got really up and close to the girl that was singing next to me. And she was like, you have the worst face while singing. And I heard that, and I must have made a face. Because then she walks in front of me. And she's like, you have the second worst face in this whole, and like a choir of like, I think 80 girls, maybe no more, no less, but about 80 girls. That broke me, because I was someone who, as I mentioned, in high school, I was an overachiever. I always thought, as long as I do my best, people know me. Like, they know I'm a good, kind-hearted person. Like, it'll be good. I literally took it as an easy pass. that was a huge like slap of reality, but also a huge like, punch to my confidence where again, I laugh about it now, but leaving the chapel or that rehearsal, it was pretty dark at this time of day. And I was like sobbing and crying. And my mom picked me up. I didn't live on campus, so my mom picked me up because that was the last class that I had for the day.
Yeah.
And she's like, "Oh, how'd it go?" And I'm over here trying to hold back my tears. I'm like, "It's fine." But I look back at that opportunity, and it reminds me again where it's like I have to show up. Like whenever I enter a room, I can't rely on what I think people know of me. I can't rely, on like the good words of like my manager. Like I'm showing up, I have to show up. Like I have to be like 100%. I have to know my stuff. I have to really just be confident in what it is that I'm selling or doing or whatever. So yeah, I mean, that stayed with me because I felt like I needed that at the time. But yeah, I mean, again, strong musical clean. Yeah, I see it.
Yeah. Well, thanks for sharing that with us. Wow.
Yeah.
Can't believe that happened.
Yeah, and I mean, she was a good director. She was just being tough on us because again, it's her name in a way on the line. So I got that, and I learned that where it's like you're not just representing yourself, you're representing others. So, and in that sense, I was representing the school, the choir, but most importantly, because I was probably, again, only one of like few students of color in that choir, I felt like I was representing, Latino. So I was like, I have to step up. So,
Were there anything like you wanted to cover or any story you wanted to share? We were like, man, I'm going to be on the First Line podcast. I hope I get to share this.
No. I mean, not that I feel like, and I hope this isn't like maybe it's not a good or bad thing. Maybe I'm overthinking it, but I try to go towards things without any expectations. Yeah. I feel like that kind of helps calm my nerves as well as, just really taking the whole experience in. So, and I told Will, I was, when you all initially started this podcast, I jokingly said, like, when are you going to have the girls in the podcast? And he was like, well, would you like to be on it? And I was like, no, not me. Because I generally don't like to, I guess, have attention. I like being, again, my introvert. I like to just kind of lay back. But through the episodes that you all had put out so far, just hearing people's stories, I've taken something away from each of them, and I think what y'all are doing are great. And so I thought, well, maybe if it's just for one person who's watching, maybe hopefully they take something away that will help better their lives, or maybe not do the same mistakes that I did. So yeah, I really appreciate this.
Yeah, well, we appreciate having you here, and thanks for sharing your stories and letting us get to know you more in your life. And for all the new listeners, we thank you guys for listening. And
do you have, cameras are yours. Do you have any piece of advice, any kind of last words, any message you'd like to get out there, anything at all? The cameras are yours, and then I'll go ahead and close this out.
Any shout outs too, if you want.
Any shout outs? Oh man, I can't say no, but I would say, of course, just final piece of advice from an HR professional, first generation student, is really just, if someone extends you like the hand to help, take it. Even if you feel like you're not worthy, or if you want to make up excuses for why you don't want to take it, just take it. If someone's offering you the opportunity, whether they meet it or not, take it. So yeah, that's all I have. And thank you again for your time.
I like that.
Yeah, that's good. Well, thanks, Jasmine, for coming, and hope to have you again in future episodes.
Thanks for letting us record in your house.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Well, that's been the episode for First in Line podcast. Thank you guys so much. Hope you guys are enjoying the holidays, spending time with people you care about, family, friends, and we'll be back soon. So take care and see ya.